Hi there, Kids Unlimited Academy. I just want to say thank you so much for all of the wonderful work you do at your school in preparation for your students coming back. And I just wanted to pop on here and give you some possible strategies of how to balance rooming and Zooming at the same time. So first off, what is Room to Zoom? Basically, as a teacher, I know you will be doing essentially the impossible. Students will be watching you online as you simultaneously teach in-person students, and the first thing that I'm thinking about is how can we be the most effective teachers for both of those sets of students, online and in person. Teaching already is such a juggling act, so I'm hoping some of these strategies are helpful for you as you enter into the next endeavor of your Room to Zoom teaching. So the first strategy that I think would possibly be beneficial is using your projector in order to see your Zoomers at the same time as you're teaching your in-person students. And the way you would do this is you would share your screen with your Zoom students and you would place their face boxes, drag it on over to your screen in which all of your in-person students are looking at. In this way, not only can your Zoom students see the entire class because you've positioned your camera to show the entire class, but your in-class participants can also see their friends and neighbors on Zoom. And with Room to Zoom teaching, there's going to be a lot of juggling questions from your in-person kids and your Zoom kids, and so I'd encourage you to create a system for identifying these Zoom kid needs. Students online will need your help and attention just as much as your in-person students. So here's some ideas for how to balance the two worlds and kind of make them cohesive with one another. The first thing is you could designate a student every day to be your Zoom helper. You can call them a Zoom detective or something fun to give them ownership. And every time a student on Zoom types into the chat or has a question, the student can then alert you in class. And I anticipate this might get distracting if the student is always kind of yelling out, "Hey, you got somebody in the chat." So maybe they can silently give you a cue that you should check Zoom by holding something in the air like a little question mark or some other way that you can think of them alerting you in order to get your attention that your online Zoomers need some help. Also, and this works well with strategy 1, if you have your students on your projector screen to the class, if you teach them how to raise the little hand emoji, then you're able to see on the screen what kids need help and you're able to then go on in and help them out. Strategy number 3 is using breakout rooms for student discourse. So I've been racking my brain, how do I have my Zoomers have quality student discourse and good conversations when my in-person kids are having those same conversations? And so use the wonderful tool of breakout rooms. And if you want to make sure that your Zoomers are actually doing what you're asking them to do, you can make them turn in something at the end of their conversation. So if you are wanting them to summarize an article they read, the groups can each write out their summary into the chat box as they're working, and then when they come back into the whole group scenario, they're able to press enter and send in their group summary. And so it holds them accountable to actually producing something and participating with one another. So this might be a beneficial tool for you to use as well. Really, this is an opportunity for you to try new things in your classroom with very low stakes because we're all learning and all growing. And so I'd also encourage you to give yourself a little bit of grace, a little bit of flexibility, and allow your creativity to fly, because if you're going to try anything new, now's the time, and you're going to learn so much from that experience. Number 4, and one of my favorites, is I'd encourage you to play games that everyone in your class can join in on. Kahoot, Quizlet Live, Quizzes, Gimkit, and more are all platforms where your Zoomers and in-person students can play together. You can also formatively assess your students cohesively as an entire class when you use online games. And also, it's going to help create that class culture that you don't have an online Zoomer class versus the in-person class, but rather it's everyone learning and everyone contributing. So this might be a helpful tool for you to formatively assess students or to review concepts, and there's tons of already pre-made games that you can just type into the search bar and you're good to go. So this would be a fun, engaging thing to do with your class as well. Next up is to give your online students pre-made interactive activities to do. I'm sure we've learned at this point that there's some amazing tech tools out there that really can engage and help kids in learning online. And that is true. And there's also some platforms that already have everything pre-made for you. So sometimes, at least in my own classroom, I rack my brain about how can I make my really fun, engaging work that I do in my classroom available online, and sometimes that isn't so seamless, and sometimes my in-person materials can't translate to the online world. And so I would encourage you to keep things consistent and the same when they are applicable, meaning that your in-person students and your online students are doing the same thing when available, but that's not always the case. And so when this isn't the case, it's handy to have a few websites and a few resources that have things you can just pull from, and they are good, they go towards our standards, and they are fun for kids. And here I've just provided a short list of some websites where you can pull articles or science labs or math labs, and they're really engaging and fun. And if you've never heard of Gizmos in particular, if you teach 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, this is math and science fun all over the place for you. They're really fun, really engaging, and they walk students through every single step. Also, if you teach middle school science, HASP is a great resource. Khan Academy and Khan Academy Kids is a great resource for many subject areas. Time for Kids and Kids Discover are also excellent, and I'm sure you wonderful teachers have heard of many of these. I just want to remind you that these resources are available, and it could be a pretty quick way to make some really engaging, authentic, standards-driven lessons. And lastly, my last strategy is in-person and Zoomer pacing. So, based on feedback from people who have already been doing room-to-Zoom teaching, the consensus is that your in-person students will move at a faster pace than your Zoomer students. And so you should anticipate this. You should plan accordingly, meaning think about having extra activities or problems ready for your in-person students. Maybe have some coloring sheets or content-related word searches or crosswords ready to give your in-person students if needed. Or if there's any other engaging activities that can be added on to your lessons, that would be good to have on hand just in case your in-person students are moving at a quicker pace. This way, you can one-on-one help your Zoomers while your in-person students are also working on the day's lesson instead of just sitting there kind of waiting for what's next. Okay, I want us to take a deep breath and acknowledge that this is difficult. What you're about to encounter is going to be a challenge among all of the challenges we've already had this year. But I also want to encourage you that you're a great teacher. No matter what this year has brought you, you make a positive impact in kids' lives, and that's what matters. You provide safe spaces for kids, and that's what matters. And while you're about to enter into the room-to-Zoom layout, which might be a challenge, you are doing what's best for kids every single day, and that's what matters. So I want you to remember to give yourself a little grace, do your best, and if you need help, there's people out there who are willing to jump out and help you. All right, I want to leave you with some of these thoughts here on the screen now. I've certainly felt this way. Maybe you have too. I want to say thank you for your time, and I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be sure to respond. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, month, and rest of the year. Great job, KUA. You're doing awesome things.